Ever bought ginger at the grocery store, used a little piece, and then watched the rest shrivel up in the back of your fridge? What if I told you that same grocery store ginger could turn into an endless, self-multiplying supply that keeps producing year after year, and you never have to buy ginger again? In this video, I am going to walk you through the complete process of growing massive amounts of ginger at home in containers, completely for free. Plus, stick around to the end where I will show you how to turn your homegrown ginger into a versatile ginger powder you can use in teas, baking, and seasoning. Let us get started. Ginger is one of the most rewarding plants you can grow at home, and honestly, it is way easier than most people think. Once you understand how this plant actually works and what it wants, you will be pulling up huge harvests from nothing more than a piece you grabbed at the store. So let us start by understanding what ginger really is and how it grows. Now, one of the most important things to know about ginger is that what we call the ginger root is not actually a root at all. It is a rhizome, which is a modified underground stem. Think of it as the main highway of the plant. Everything grows out from it. Shoots go up, roots go down, and the rhizome itself creeps and expands horizontally underground. That is how ginger multiplies. Every time a new section of rhizome develops, it sends up a new shoot, and that shoot feeds more growth back down into the rhizome. So one piece of ginger becomes two becomes four, and before you know it, you have got a whole network of ginger expanding outward. This is exactly why ginger is such a perfect crop for anyone who wants a self-sustaining supply. You plant one piece, and the plant does the multiplying for you. The key is giving it the right conditions and enough time, and we are going to cover all of that step by step. Now here's the beautiful part. You do not need to order anything special or buy seed ginger from a catalog. Your starting material is sitting right there in the produce section of your grocery store. When you are picking out ginger at the store, you want to look for pieces that are plump, firm, and have visible eyes. Those eyes are the little bumps or nubs on the surface, and sometimes you'll even see tiny green or white tips starting to push out. That is exactly what you want. Those are future shoots. Grab the biggest, healthiest looking chunks you can find. Here is a pro tip that makes a real difference. The larger the piece of rhizome you plant, the faster your ginger will take off. A big chunk with 5 or 6 eyes is going to send up 5 or 6 shoots, which means more leaves up top, more photosynthesis, more energy, and a much bigger harvest down the line. A tiny little toe piece with 1 or 2 eyes will still grow, but it is going to take a lot longer to build momentum. So, do not be shy. Grab generous pieces. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that some grocery store ginger has been treated with a growth inhibitor to keep it from sprouting on the shelf. If you notice your ginger is not waking up after a couple of weeks, that might be why. You can get around this by soaking it in water overnight before planting, which helps wash off any residue. Or better yet, check your local farmer's market or an Asian grocery store where the ginger tends to be fresher and untreated. Either way, you are spending a couple of dollars at most, and from that one purchase, you can grow ginger forever. By the way, if you are finding this helpful so far, go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss more videos like this. Now let us keep going. Now that we have our ginger, we need to think about what we are going to plant it in. Since ginger rhizomes expand horizontally, not straight down like a carrot or a potato, it makes much more sense to grow it in a wide, shallow container rather than a narrow, deep one. A pot that is about 14 to 18 inches wide and 8 to 12 inches deep is ideal. This gives the rhizome plenty of room to spread out sideways, which is exactly what it wants to do. You can use a plastic storage tote, a fabric grow bag, a half whiskey barrel, really anything that is wide and has drainage holes. If your container does not have drainage, drill a few holes in the bottom. Ginger likes moisture, but it does not want to sit in standing water. For soil, you want a really high-quality potting mix that is loose and rich in organic matter. The rhizome needs to be able to push through the soil easily as it expands, so avoid anything heavy or compacted. A good organic potting mix with some added compost or worm castings is perfect. If you want to give it a little extra boost, you can mix in a handful of aged compost or a slow-release organic fertilizer right into the soil before planting. That gives your ginger a nice food source to draw from as it gets established. All right, let us get this ginger in the ground, or in the pot, I should say. Fill your container with your potting mix, leaving about 2 inches of space from the rim. Now take your ginger piece and set it on top of the soil with the eyes facing up. You do not need to bury it deep at all. This is not like planting a potato 6 inches down. Just press it gently into the soil and cover it with about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of mix. That is it. Nice and shallow. Now give it a light watering. And I do mean light. Remember, there are no roots and no shoots yet, so the ginger cannot absorb much water at this point. You just want to get the soil evenly moist, not soaking wet. Think of it as a welcome drink, just enough to tell the rhizome it is time to wake up and start sending out roots. If you stick your finger into the soil, it should feel damp about 2 inches down. That is plenty for now. Once the shoots start pushing up, you can gradually increase your watering. Now, where you put your container is going to make or break your ginger crop, so let us talk about placement. Ginger comes from Southeast Asia. Think tropical. That means it loves warmth, humidity, and consistent moisture. It does not love direct scorching sun all day, though. In the wild, ginger grows under the canopy of taller plants, so it is used to bright, filtered light or partial shade. If you are in USDA zones 9 through 12, you can grow ginger outdoors pretty much year-round. Place your container where it gets morning sun and afternoon shade or dappled light throughout the day. If you are in zones 8 and below where you get a true frost in winter, start your ginger indoors in late winter or early spring. A warm spot near a bright window works great. You can also use a simple heat mat underneath the container to keep the soil around 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the sweet spot for sprouting. Once nighttime temperatures are consistently above 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and your ginger has sprouted, you can move it outside. Just make sure to bring it back in before the first frost in fall. The great thing about containers is that portability. You can chase the best conditions all season long. Let us talk about the ongoing care that turns a little sprout into a truckload of ginger. Watering is probably the most important factor. Ginger wants consistently moist soil, not wet, not dry, just evenly moist. During the active growing season, which is spring through early fall, you will probably need to water every 2 to 3 days depending on your climate. In really hot, dry areas, you might water daily. A good rule of thumb is to stick your finger an inch into the soil. If it feels dry, water it. If it still feels damp, leave it alone. One trick that commercial ginger growers use is mulching. Lay about 1 to 2 inches of wood chip mulch or straw on top of the soil after your shoots are a few inches tall. This holds moisture in, keeps the soil temperature steady, and reduces how often you need to water. As for feeding, ginger is a hungry plant. It is putting a lot of energy into building that rhizome underground. Every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season, side dress with a good organic compost or hit it with a balanced liquid fertilizer. Something like a fish emulsion or a seaweed blend works beautifully. You will notice the leaves get darker and the plant just looks happier when it is well fed. Let us talk about some common problems you might run into and how to handle them. First, if you see the tips of the leaves turning brown and crispy, that is almost always a sign that the soil is drying out too much between waterings. Increase your watering frequency, add more mulch, or move the container to a slightly shadier spot to reduce evaporation. Second, if the leaves are turning yellow, especially the older lower leaves, your ginger is probably hungry. Give it a dose of liquid fertilizer or top dress with compost. Yellowing can also mean the soil is staying too wet, so make sure your drainage is good. Third, if the rhizome itself feels mushy or starts to rot, you have got too much water sitting in the container. Back off on watering and make sure those drainage holes are clear. You may need to repot into drier soil if it is really bad. Fourth, if your ginger just is not sprouting after 3 or 4 weeks, it might have been treated with a growth inhibitor. Try soaking a fresh piece overnight and replanting, or source your ginger from a farmer's market. And fifth, do not panic if your ginger flowers. That is completely natural. Ginger flowers are actually edible and quite pretty. It just means your plant is mature and happy. The good news is, if you follow the steps we have covered, most of these problems are easy to avoid entirely. Now let us talk about the part you have been waiting for: harvesting. And this is where it gets really exciting, because this is how you keep your ginger supply going forever without spending another cent. Ginger typically needs about 4 to 5 months from planting to reach a good harvestable size. You will know it is getting close when the plant is lush and full, usually 2 to 3 feet tall with lots of shoots. If you want to do a partial harvest and keep the plant growing, carefully dig around the edges of the container and snap off the newer rhizome sections, leaving the main plant and its root system undisturbed. This way, the plant keeps growing and producing even more ginger. If you are in a colder zone and frost is coming, go ahead and harvest everything before the plant dies back. Tip the container over, pull out the whole root mass, and brush off the soil. Here is the free Ginger Forever trick. Take your best, healthiest rhizome pieces, the ones with the most eyes, and set them aside. Store them in a cool, dry spot, like a root cellar, a garage, or even a paper bag in your pantry. Come next spring, plant those pieces and start the whole cycle again. Every season, your harvest gets bigger because you are planting more and more starter pieces. One chunk of grocery store ginger can turn into pounds and pounds within a couple of seasons. Now for that bonus tip I promised at the beginning. Let us turn some of that homegrown ginger into ginger powder. This is one of my favorite things to do because it takes fresh ginger and turns it into a pantry staple that lasts for months. Start by washing your harvested ginger and slicing it into thin, uniform pieces about the thickness of a coin. Keeping the slices uniform is important because you want everything to dry at the same rate. If you have a food dehydrator, spread the slices out in a single layer on the trays and dry them at about 115 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 to 4 hours. You will know they are done when the slices snap cleanly in half with no bend at all. If you do not have a dehydrator, you can do this in your oven on the lowest setting with the door cracked. Open or even sun-dry them if you are in a warm, dry climate. Once they are completely dry and crispy, toss them into a spice grinder or even a clean coffee grinder and pulse until you have a fine powder. That is it, homegrown ginger powder. Use it in teas, smoothies, stir-fries, baked goods, marinades, you name it. And since you grew it yourself, you know exactly what is in it. No additives, no fillers, just pure ginger. So that is everything you need to know to grow a never-ending supply of ginger right at home without spending a fortune. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. And if you have any questions or your own ginger growing tips, drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching and happy gardening.